What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates Power Rangers review, digging into the first Ranger that we're going to take a look at in this wave. And of course, I mean, there is no other option, really. We do get two Rangers, but it has to be Tommy. We have to take a look at our Green Ranger. Now, this guy, of course, comes in standard Ultimate style packaging. It's a more normal size compared to Goldar and compared to the T-Rex for sure. You get the slipcover, you got the dragon coin there embossed on the front, which I do really like that. And then you've got your classic logo on the back. Pop that slipcover off, of course, and we've got our very 90s inspired packaging in there. You got the figure in the window, you've got the lightning bolt motif all around, and then on the back you've got a shot of Tommy from the show, as well as a bio for our Green Ranger. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Ultimates Mighty Morphin Green Ranger, a very interesting figure, we'll say, to start with. There is a lot of good about this figure, and there's some stuff that is, I mean, it's going to be divisive, and I think that's going to extend to all of the Rangers when it comes to this line. I have a feeling that the standouts are going to always be the Zords and the Monsters, because the Rangers, while they have far more articulation than most Ultimates, more range and different joint styles, things that I've wanted to see in this line since the beginning, basically, it's still a Power Ranger, and it's not as dynamic as you're going to want it to be. And that's the easy way to say it. It's not as dynamic as, you know, Lightning Collection or the old Figuarts, for example. But they have done as much as I think they could do while still being within the limits of Ultimates. So that's a big positive for me, but he's still going to have some limitations. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. You got a head that can look up really good, where we've got a disc hinge with a ball down really nicely as well. There's no tilt though. Full rotation. Arms out at the shoulders. These can be really, really, really tight. And I say that because the arms are swappable. So they have a different joint structure in there, but they do go all the way out. See, I've got to really, really push it. It's just because of how it clasps shut in there. Kind of like a Build-A-Figure when it comes to Legends, but a little tighter. Got full rotation there. We've got a bicep swivel, which unfortunately is kind of wonky looking because of how it was done. The musculature, I mean, there's not a lot of musculature on these guys because, of course, they're based on suit actors. And those armbands, they just sort of look funny when they're fully twirled around. We've got our single jointed elbows, and this is one of those areas where I'm happy that they did, you know, what they could, because it is better than 90. It's not much better than 90, but it's better than 90, and there is, you know, a little bit of shimmy there. We've got hinges, rotation at the wrist, all that good stuff. Now, the torso is an area where I'm happy with some of the stuff they did, but at the same time, I'm not, because the Yellow Ranger does not have the same kind of articulation. There are two different articulation schemes within this line. So the Green Ranger has this crazy, crazy ab crunch here, which unfortunately, I just don't like the look of it. Not a big fan of the look, but the functionality is pretty solid. And he can go forward pretty far. The Dragon Shield is going to get in the way a little bit. You can sort of get it out of the way, and he's got a pretty good crunch there. What I really like, though, is that we actually have a functioning ball peg waist, finally. And that's something that is in this line beyond just this figure, too. I've been harping about that for a while now. It's still limited. It only goes, you know, so far. But you've got tilt side to side a little bit, and it's your rotation point. So I'm pretty happy about that. I'm just not the happiest with the way that crunch looks when it's all in there, especially if you take the shield off. It's kind of weird looking. Legs go out about all the way, splits basically. Kick forward pretty much all the way as well. Backwards, you've got a slight thigh twist up here. It's pretty good, but it's not all the way. It's just because, you know, it's an Ultimate's thigh cut basically. Knees are basically 90, maybe a little bit more. Another area where, you know, we're going to want more. You're always going to want the knee to go back a little further to be more dynamic. But it is better than average for Ultimates, I believe. You've got a boot cut here, which is nicely hidden. And then you've got a really good rocker and hinges down at those ankles. Hinges at the ankles are really solid, full range there. So he's kind of a double-edged sword, right? He has really, really good articulations within the confines of Ultimates. Like, compared to a lot of other figures, a lot of other lines, this guy just trounces them. But at the same time, he's still a Power Ranger, and I'm always going to want a little bit more range when it comes to those arms and those knees. Now, visually, I'm really happy with this figure. I think for the most part, when it comes to the Rangers, while they may not be my favorite when it comes to this wave, I do like what they've done here. And a lot of it comes down to proportions, because these are definitely meant to look like, you know, Sentai suit actors, which Sentai is Sentai and Power Rangers is Power Rangers, but the footage was the same. So we've got a relatively slender frame for our figure, which works really well because, well, that's what they were. There's a few other things here, of course, that I do really like also. There's some small paint details that really stand out. The boots and the gloves look really good. Very clean, very crisp. I love the dragon shield on this guy, though, and that definitely is a standout. The gold that they used isn't super, super bright, and neither was that shield. It had, I don't want to say the word dull, but it wasn't as, like, chromed out gold as you might expect it to be. It had, you know, a little softness to it. Maybe that's the better way to say it, because it was foam. And I think that comes through really, really well here. The armbands, the trim on the gloves and the boots also looks really good. The morpher, really, really clean, really crisp. Lots of tiny paint detail in there, obviously. And of course, you've got your sculpted dragon coin as well. The dragon shield is removable. You can pop the arms off, pop the head off, and you can take it off. So you want a unshielded Dragon Ranger or Green Ranger. And of course, we do have another one to swap on, which we'll talk about later. The only thing that's truly visually not for me on this guy is really this ab crunch. I just think it's one of the weirdest looking ab crunches, and it doesn't really work for me. Thankfully, the shield does hide most of that, but when you take it off, you're obviously going to notice it. So that's kind of a negative for me, but otherwise, I do think he looks really good. The color is really, really consistent throughout. The green is very, very deep and vibrant at the same time. Again, words that maybe don't necessarily jive together, but that's how I'm thinking about it. The white looks really clean, really crisp. There's other small things on this figure that I like to see. You've got the line that runs up the boot. That's a very Hallmark Sentai boot thing, the little cross line and the one that runs up, as well as the little ribbed aspects of the gloves themselves. That's another callback, another more screen accurate thing. I like the fact that you can see the diamond poking up just a bit above that shield. And again, the color on that, really nicely done. The little symbols inside the diamond look great. And then I think the helmet is also really, really nice. It's definitely better than the Lightning Collection helmets for sure. It is very much more accurate in many ways. I love the paint on those teeth on the inset of the visor there. And then you've got that chromed out mouth. We've got the very black visor. You've got the jewel on the top. Shape, size, proportions, all of it look really good. I'm very, very happy with that. So I think he looks really nice. The only thing that's truly, you know, again, not for me, not for my liking, is this particular joint, which while it is very functional, it's kind of weird. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, here are some other Power Rangers Ultimates. So here is the T-Rex Zord, and here is Goldar. These two aren't meant to really scale together, but it gives you an idea of what the line is representing. And then I think Goldar might actually look a little bit large by comparison here, but I'm not necessarily upset about that. He's a monster, so it doesn't really bother me. And then let's do some other lines. Let's move Goldar aside. Here's a Figuarts. Here's a Superhero Piccolo. Let's move this guy aside. And here is the NECA War Duke. And then let's take Piccolo aside. And here is a Mythic Legion. So there's the unknown one. And then let's take both of these aside. And here is the Lightning Collection Green Ranger for just an idea of what these two look like next to each other. So you can see that, I mean, there's an obvious difference in size, overall proportions, color, and then of course the helmet is definitely much, much better on our Ultimates. Not to mention the fact that the shield, I think the shield is also much, much better. So it gives you an idea of what we're working with when it comes to the Hasbro versus Super 7. Now for accessories, the easy way to say it is that there's just a lot of stuff here, and it's wide-ranging. You get various things from various sources with this figure. We have to talk about the heads first. I know that's going to be the sticking point for people. We get two unhelmeted heads with this figure. You get the helmeted head on him in the box. This is our good Tommy head, and I think this is in some ways the better of the two, but it's also not. I think ultimately the likeness is sort of there, but it's lost, and it's weird to say this because we don't usually get a lot of paint on heads in this line. It's lost because of the paint. It's a fully painted head. The hair looks good. You know, he's got that ponytail. It's classic Tommy. But he's got these like really, really cartoony eyebrows and cartoony eyes. And the skin, it's all the same color everywhere. There should be at least a little bit of shading. The big sticking point for me is the lips. Your lips are not the same color as the rest of your head. I don't know why I keep zeroing in on that, but it really bugs me that that little thing just was omitted. And this is a live action show. Why does he look so cartoony? We also get this one. So this is like a green with evil Tommy head, and I don't think the likeness is here on this one, but there's more paint detail that helps bring out the sculpt here. He still has super cartoony eyebrows. They're like these big triangles sitting over his eyes. The smoky eye looks good. The green in the eyes looks really good, but the likeness on this one just, it's not there for me. We do get some swappable limbs, like I talked about previously. So these are, you know, you can pop them out and put them back in. These are the limbs where he's given away the Green Ranger powers because the bands aren't on them. So here's one of the other ones. It's got the armbands. So you can swap those out. He does come with some hands as well. There's quite a few, actually. We get fists on him in the box on these arms. On these arms, they come with these sort of clawing style posy hands. And of course, they're all swappable. I'm just leaving them how they are in the box. You get a set of vertically hinged gripping hands. We get a set of laterally hinged gripping hands. You get this two-finger pose hand. And then we get the very iconic, you know, the actual flute playing, dragon dagger playing hand for his right. He comes with, of course, a bunch of signature accessories, and then we've got some sort of deep cut stuff to talk about as well. So he comes with this in-use morpher. You can see like the green energy sort of pulsating inside there, the green and the red and the gold. So it's very accurate in that way. You know, one thing I worry about when it comes to Green Ranger stuff is people forgetting to make the morpher gold. Thankfully, that did not happen here. So we've got that. We've got the dragon dagger. You know, you can't have a Green Ranger without a dragon dagger. Looks great. Sculpt is fantastic. Tons and tons of paint on this thing. It does fit in the sheath. If you're like me, it's probably never going to be there, but you've got that option. We've got the Sword of Darkness, which I love this thing. I love this design. I love the idea behind it. Silver, black, red, super metallic, and it's got a tassel on there. Then we've got some deep cut stuff that are Tommy specific. So this is the Sword of Power. I want to say it was described as like being the remnants of the Sword of Darkness or some such nonsense. So you got this thing, it's a really generic, goofy looking sword, and he holds it. I don't remember what he does with it, but he holds it at the very least, so it's a very Tommy specific thing. And then this is the mega heater that he uses to fight Turban Shell, I believe. It's like a flamethrower-y looking kind of thing. It's like some energy blaster, but it's definitely a Tommy specific sort of monster of the day kind of weapon. And then we get some more toy callbacks. So this is, of course, our vintage shield that is meant to look like the Bandai shield. So you've got this vac metal two-piece shield here. You can pop it apart and just pinch it around his neck. I think it's sized kind of weird, but in a good way, because that shield did not really seem to fit that original vintage figure all that well. It seemed kind of short, and it seemed kind of not wide enough in many ways, and I feel like that comes through here, so that's not a negative. It's accurate to the weirdness. And then we get the vintage Bandai Dragon Dagger. So, of course, that's just done up in silver. And it's got that hole in there, of course. And then lastly, we get a vintage looking Bandai Blade Blaster. And while the Green Ranger doesn't have a holster for it here, it's canonically accurate at the least to give it to him because he does have one in the show. He uses it, I don't even think he uses it, but he has it when he loses the Dragon Dagger. So you get a vintage white one just to go along with it. So you get some vintage accessories, which that I think is pretty cool. It's one of those weird vintage callback things that you would expect to see out of the Super 7 line. So he comes with a lot of stuff. There's some really cool stuff here too, don't get me wrong. I think a lot of people are really going to zero in on these heads because they're okay, but they really just miss the mark. But he does come with a lot of other options, tons of hands, bunch of weapons, and various ways to change up your Green Ranger. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this guy, but that's obviously not to say he doesn't have faults, because there's definitely things I don't like about this figure. I like it more than I expected I was going to, though, because I kind of went in on not expecting it to be able to do a whole lot, because it's an Ultimates figure that's supposed to be a Power Ranger. At the end of the day, he still doesn't move as well as I want a Power Ranger to move, but it's probably one of the best articulated figures in Ultimates period, and there's definitely things here that they have done that I have wanted to see incorporated into this line for a while. Sculpt is good, paint is good, the overall look and feel of this figure is nice. I still don't really care for that ab crunch, but it works really nicely. He comes with a tremendous amount of accessories. I really can't stress that enough. There are a lot of accessories here. Most of them are really, really good. Those alternate heads are definitely an unfortunate mishap with this figure because I just don't think they turned out all that well. And I know folks who really like unhelmeted Ranger heads, and I don't think they're going to be satisfied with these. But if you don't care about those, you're going to like this Green Ranger helmet because I think the helmet is probably one of the better examples we've gotten in quite a while. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Power Rangers Wave 1 Green Ranger. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.